Welcome back. Today's masterclass is on a project that we completed just recently. And it was a three-year project that we did in three separate phases. And was a lot of different reasons why we did it that way, which we'll get into a little bit later. But really what we want to emphasize, I think, is how you structure a project like this, things to think about while you're designing the project, while you're constructing the project, and how it finishes without really going backwards when you start each phase. So the investment level is not being wasted because you're tearing things back out and coming back and kind of circling around and redoing things uh, that if it's not well planned out, you're gonna end up doing that.
Absolutely. And you're thinking, wow, 3 years of my life or that the family time under construction, but we work it out so it makes sense.
And one of the reasons this was 3 years was because they didn't want to move out of the house. Would have had to have driven the kids back to get on the school bus, the whole 9 yards. So what we were able to do was really design it and structure it so that the impact was less than if we would have just gone in there and done everything at once. Because yes, we could have demoed everything. We could have done the foundation. We would have been building the addition while we were renovating the existing, but we structured it so the impact was minimal to them.
And so we'll get into the different advantages, but it definitely helped financially to break it down
Absolutely.
to the different phases.
Yep. So basically, we started with the finish line. And why don't you go into a little bit on the design side, how when someone comes to us with a project like this, how how are you approaching it and how do you help them approach it so that they're seeing why we're doing each step the way we're doing it?
I think the most important thing is having the big picture is so that we're planning for that, whether it's one phase, two phases, three, we're including that work for the future. For example, framing is a big thing, making sure that the structure is in place for phase two. Let's say you're raising or building out a second floor. We need to make sure that the floor joists are in place and so that you're not tearing anything out in the future. That's key. We don't want to waste any money. It's on your investment into this project, and we want to make sure that we're using those funds wisely for your benefit. So structure, getting electrical to the other side. Let's say it's an addition of the back side of the house. That's the second phase. We want to make sure that we get the electric service through the renovations that we've done in phase one to where they're going to be needed for phase two, phase three. Roofing, windows, things like that, all those things that could be broken out in different phases. We want to make sure that we can still get those windows for the following phases. The roof or an addition, we want to make sure that we've planned for that. So there's a lot of key things that we need to work together with you to make sure that all the phases tie in nicely.
Yeah, exactly. And really the mechanicals and things like that are really key because in this particular project, when we started out with the sheds, we said, what are the things that we need to address? And we sat down with them, we went through item by item so they understood exactly what we were doing, why we were addressing those things. And yes, phase one, we attacked sort of all those different things. We looked at the water. This was an old craftsman style house. So it was a very small one-story house. And the approach really was to make it into a modern craftsman house, which we basically more than doubled the size of the home with the addition off the back. But we didn't want it to look like that. And also pulling up to the house, we didn't really want to go up. Well, they didn't really want to go up. So it was really kind of making it go with the contour of the land and really making it look like it had been there from the original house. And I think that was really key to them, with also getting larger rooms and making it so that the family could live there and make it that it felt like not only it had been part of the house forever, but it also kind of fit the way they were living now.
Updating the finishes, the fixtures, the systems, like you're saying, for an older home, making it more comfortable, just to live day to day in that space. And like you said, giving them more space and reworking some, opening it up a little bit because it was an older home, closed floor plan. So really creating open spaces for the family.
And because this house was built in the sixties, early sixties, we did have to address some foundation issues also. I know that the basement was unfinished and really had some water issues and things like that. And there were some, not really structural cracks, but there were cracks in the foundation that we wanted to address so that as we improved the home, the existing home wasn't going to be sort of an eyesore of the whole project.
And we had some different options there for that basement that you mentioned, an older basement, lower ceiling. There are a couple different options, you know, or is it excavating the entire basement area, lowering the floor in there, or we were able, in this case, to raise a beam up. So even though the ceiling was on the lower side at 7 foot, 7'6", by eliminating the center beam that was running through there or raising it up into the floor joist, that just made for a clean, open floor plan. And it was completely, you know, and the ductwork wasn't dropping down below the ceiling, things like that. So it just made for a nice open basement.
Yeah. And then one of the things that we did, because one of the biggest complaints with the existing home was that it was cold, and that goes back to the mechanical. And so what we did was is we addressed the basement being very cold. We put in a whole new mechanical system that we were actually able to add on because we zoned it. We were actually able to add it on and incorporate the kitchen, the family room, and then the living room area. And then in the third phase, we went ahead and did the primary bedroom, which that ended up having its own system in itself, which only made sense because the way it had sprawled down the property, there was no way to run the ductwork that far. But I know one of the things that you came up with, Craig, was the heated floors, which they absolutely loved. And they were not really that familiar with hydronic heat and how it worked and how it can work with the existing system. And so we designed that into many different zones, and all of that was down in the one crawl space in the front house. But by zoning it and hooking it into the the water heater, we were able to accomplish a lot of different things. But mainly it was being comfortable in the wintertime.
And we were able to take advantage of the open basement ceiling, the older house. So that area was exposed again prior before finishing the basement out. So in the different phases, but include that. We were also able to find, as we're renovating, some of the old issues from an older home, like ductwork that had collapsed in certain areas. Wondering, well, why is this room not getting a lot of airflow, things like that. From the forced air system. So renovations, we're gonna not only plan for the new space and update the space, but you're also correcting things that have been falling apart or in disrepair over time. So it truly is getting a new space.
Like a facelift on the original house, which we did. We did some return gables. We did a lot of different things. We were able to do a cathedral ceiling in that one area, which really opened up the whole front entry, which changed the whole feel as you walked into the house, rather than walking into that small foyer that was closed off. Now it's opened into the living room that had a cathedral ceiling that carried through that whole area into the new addition area.
And all of these things that we're mentioning are key because we've been meeting with the clients throughout the course of the design. And again, in the design build process, we're still there working with them through the design. It's our crews that we're working on the project itself. So we're seeing this, we're communicating and developing a new finished plan each and every day that we're up there.
Right. And I know one of the things when you started talking planning, I know when we sat down, you brought to their attention that I know that they had some questions. Ollie was saying, why are we doing these three phases like this? And you explained that because over the winter time, we don't want to be replacing the windows and things like that. So
Yeah.
the window replacement came into phase two as we were coming into the spring. So we were really planning out not only what makes sense structurally and mechanically, but also, yes, seasonally, so that we're not impacting the house and taking all the windows out in February and saying, well, that's the schedule we had, so we did it that way. We were really planning it out so that it really, you know, not only did it not impact sort of how they're living in the house and how the kids are living in the house, but also that it's not an inconvenience where it's going to be cold or very hot and things like that.
100%.
So as we moved into phase two, which was the addition, we've already addressed the structural issues of how we're tying it in and things like that. Phase one is complete, which, you know, we know that as you move through it, none of the phases were 100% complete until the final phase because there was tie into the other areas. And so some areas were left open. It wasn't, now most of the area wasn't 100% complete, but the areas where we were tying in and getting the mechanicals and the electric and things like that and the plumbing had to be left open. So
exactly. And where the addition was, we didn't want to re-side that
right
part of the house yet. So obviously you wait till you're building the addition off of that end of the house. And then that way you're able to tie the siding in and so that it looks seamless.
And that's a very good point because on this particular project, we did it was a custom stain party that they did for us on this particular project. And we purchased all the siding so that everything was being done at the same time so that everything would look the same, even though we knew that, you know, that last bit of siding wasn't going to be put up for 2 years. So we stored it very carefully because we knew that allowing the moisture to get on it and things like that with the hardy, you know, it wicks through the back and things. So we were planning all those things so that we knew we weren't going back to the client and saying, oh, well, guess what? They don't do that special custom stained siding anymore. So now we're going to need to do something on the first half, and you're going to need to pick something out again on the second half, which is one of the nice things about how we do it in our shop is that we're able to purchase those things and hold on to those things. Now, in a larger job, we'll have a storage container out on the project, but we'll purchase everything for that project so that, like you said, it's not going out of style. Well, not necessarily out of style, but it's not available.
Right,
anymore.
exactly. It's being discontinued,
Right.
things like that. Things to think about, shingles, siding, like Scott mentioned. There's different things that even appliances.
Right.
Let's say you did half a kitchen or you wanted something in a bathroom fixtures. And you wanted to plan for phase two and phase three. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page and what you're looking for. And we talked to our distributors. Is this something that you think would be available, or do we need to purchase it and store it?
And I'll say one of the big things, and I know it's kind of a recurring theme in all these master classes, is as this project comes together, the project is changing. Even though we have this master plan, and maybe the structural part isn't changing, but as you start seeing it come together, especially living in the house,
Yep.
you start to change what your perception was of what you thought it was going to be to what the reality is. And so we're able to adapt to that. And yes, the structural you don't want to go backwards on, but on this particular project, we know that we made some changes to the windows and things like that, because as they started to really occupy a portion of the house that they had never really occupied before, it had a great view out into the backyard over the pool, and they wanted to really take advantage of that view. And I know that you went ahead and you did these very large picture windows that were off to the side, so that as you did sit in the living room and the family room, you had that view.
Yes, and so changing the designs on phase two, phase three,
Yeah.
it's fluid, so. We're gonna make sure that you're happy with the finished project, so. Changing things, tweaking things in phase two, phase three down the road, that's what we're here for.
And it's part of what we expect too, because we know that you can plan everything you want, especially on a piece of paper. As soon as you start doing the demo and start refiguring the rooms and things are going to change, and we know that that's going to happen. I know that the deck area and that whole outside with the fire pit and all the finishes that we had out there, that was all in addition to what we had originally thought. We knew we were doing the one large deck area where the pool area was, but then we ended up doing an upper deck area that came off of the new family room.
And the key thing in all these things that we're mentioning is that the family, our clients were in control of this. That it's not something that we were driving, these
Right.
Additional work, things like that. This was something that they felt comfortable adding. And again, going back to how it's done in phases and how it affects the budget, the finances, it makes it more comfortable. Then they felt comfortable adding those things.
And speaking of comfortable, one of the things that we do when someone is living in the house, and even on a single phase, but certainly multi-phases, that we're going to make sure that obviously the plumbing is on all the time. I know on this particular project with the Shens, a big part of it was because they had small kids. They couldn't get rid of the kitchen. So as we finished phase one, what we did was we set a whole temporary kitchen up in the cafe area that allowed them to have as much of an ordinary day as possible, starting with breakfast and lunch. And yes, sometimes we had to accommodate them a little when they had I think it was I don't remember whose birthday it was, but I know that we ended up allowing the one area to sort of be open and semi-finished so that they could have that birthday party.
But making sure the utilities, the electric, the water is on at the end of the day or the weekends, that kind of thing. We realize this is your home and you're living in there. We want to make sure that we can do everything possible to, like Scott said, make sure you're as comfortable as possible. It's living through a renovation project in your home. It's not the easiest thing to do. There's disruption, but we try to eliminate or make it as smooth as possible so that you're comfortable.
We're not coming in and demoing the HVAC system and saying,
exactly.
Okay, yeah, this will be finished in 4 days, which is a lot different than if that house was vacant, because we would go in and do it that way.
True.
We wouldn't leave the other system operational and then start designing the new system. We would just go in and do all the demo at once. But we realized that because of what we do, every project is different, and we have to approach every project differently. I know on this particular project, the budget was part of the issue, but it was also it was mainly, I know that they did more of their own financing. I don't think they did really anything more than a small HELOC, but the majority of it was the selling of stocks. So they didn't want to have that impact, very large. So they wanted to do it over the course of time, which we're able to accommodate through the payment schedules that we do and things like that, so that there isn't, a huge impact financially either.
And yes, the different, taking out of retirement this tax year, or the next tax year, things like that. That's one of the more frequent reasons that we're hearing. So by all means, spread it out.
Right.
What makes you feel comfortable?
Yeah. And I think one of the things just that kind of piggybacks on that is that finding out, really the whole project, not just what are we building, but also how are they going on a long vacation? Are they doing, different things so that we know what selections are needed and the timing of those selections? And yes, we try to do all that up front before we start, but we know that there's a lot of things that need to come together. I need to see the cabinets in place before I can pick my backsplash. I need to see how much light is going to come through those windows and through those skylights. So we know that there's things that aren't going to be chosen until things are put together. And so we want to know, oh, yes, we are going to, the aunt's house for 2 weeks this summer. And then we don't want to be calling and interrupting their vacation, having them try to make, decisions over Zoom or through text or something like that.
So working together, communicating the schedule, and again, that goes back to this open communication that we provide, and since we're there on a daily basis, our project managers are assigned to your project, and they're there full time, so it all works well together.
Right.
And continues to create this project that's gonna
I know,
be what you're looking for.
sorry about that. I know one of the really interesting parts of this particular project was the HVAC. And I know that they came in thinking, I want to do a 21 or a 22 seer. And most of the time, I know our HVAC guy won't be happy because they are the most expensive units to put in. But we run a program that allows them, we put in the windows, we put in the insulation factors, all those things. And it allows us to see when are you really achieving what the efficiency level of the 21 SEER is for that unit. And we know that on this particular project, I don't even think it was 1 hour out of the day for most days that it was
To
even.
achieve that, right?
Yeah. And so when Bill sat down and did, ran the program and we looked at what was there, it really made sense to do an 18 SEER on this particular project. And I know a lot of times, you just sell whatever the customer wants, but we try to really educate them on the selections that are available and why we think maybe this is not maybe the best choice, even though it is more expensive. And yes, we would have sold something that was more expensive, we would have made more money. But we're trying to get what the best product is that's going to run in that house. One of the downside of a lot of those units is that there's only certain people that can work on them. The parts are only available in certain areas of the country. So it's not like you can run out on a Friday afternoon if something breaks down and get it from, R.E. Michaels or something like that. You're going to go back, you're going to order that part and it's going to be shipped overnight or possibly 2 or 3 days if they have the part. So we try to put out the whole, get a better understanding of why we do certain things.
The pros and cons of the
Right.
different choices, selections, systems, things like that, and let you be part of the final decision. I think that's key.
Yeah. And I guess really, we don't want to sugarcoat a 3-year project because that is a long time to see the same people coming to your house and being in sort of a little bit of turmoil through the project. But I think that if it works out where, you are saving money because you're not renting another house, so there is some savings there. I think that if there's an understanding of, and really, I think the schedule is key because now they're understanding, yes, we're going to be demoing this next week. And yes, there's going to be changes in the schedule because nothing's going to go perfect. It snows for, a couple of days and then we're having to deal with that. Or, it's raining and we aren't able to get certain things on the schedule. But it's the communication, letting someone know that, yes, we're going to move this part of the schedule over to here. We're going to take this and move it over there. But it's that communication so that they know in 2 weeks we'll be doing that they thought we were doing this week. And everybody understands that.
And lets them prepare.
Yes. Yeah. And if something was special coming up, we would reschedule that around what that was. If it's a holiday like Mother's Day or something like that, then yes, we're not going to come in here and do that because it rained for 2 weeks. We're gonna do something else and work on something else. But if it is something that can be rescheduled, then we will.
And now think about on other projects, it's not always, it's not continuous from phase one to phase two, phase three. So our point is plan for the future, but we work with your schedule and hey, we've got this benchmark or this is happening in 2 years. And we'd like a long-term phase one, phase two, phase three, and work through that together.
And we know, I mean, the most satisfying part of the whole thing was having them see the transformation take place over days, over years, and then really the amount of effort and time that they put into it, helping us design it, standing back and when we went out to get the pictures taken and did we did a little small interview with the client that we have on tape that you can see. And we just discussed the project and talked about, what were what was the best part of the project? What were some of the parts of the project that you didn't like? And getting that feedback and just seeing how excited, well, that the whole family was. Now they had their own bedrooms and things like that. And because it was a small craftsman house, your typical small rambler that was built back in the 60s. And then we expanded that house into many different areas, the kitchen being really the magnet of the whole house, which is why we put it in the center, which was phase two. But that allowed everything from the pool area to the primary bedroom to the basement area to the front living room area. And that really tied everything together. And those cathedral ceilings through the whole place really kind of brought it all together. And we'll get into a lot of the selections. We're probably going to do this in a 3-phase master class, and we'll get into some specifics. But there was a fallen barn on the property, which we were able to use a lot of that wood that we brought into the house. And there's just how we tied all the materials from really the interior design was really key on this project, not just the exterior design. And really tying all those materials throughout the whole project really made it feel like it was one single home and not 3 different additions, which you see a lot. You see that happen where other phases, it's like, okay, well, they stopped here and this looks like it's chopped away. Yeah.
Little blocks building.
Don't want any of that.
Down the line, things like that. So we want to make it seamless, and ultimately, we want to make sure that you love where you are and the space.
Yep.
And we want you to feel that you're a part of this because you are so important to this whole process. And again, this is your home. You're allowing us to work on your home, and
in this particular case, I mean, we weren't really addressing anything outside when we started the project, and then the whole landscaping, and they were so enthused that we were able to incorporate all those things in there, which really helped with the electric because we did the outside lighting, we did a lot of the audio throughout the stone and things like that, so that was all part of it, and then the TV wall and things like that all became part of this whole project that really when you stand back, it's really this really nice living area for them now that they can, not just be proud of, but I know the one time that we were back there for a couple items that needed to be taken care of, we heard them talking to a neighbor that had come by, and they were just so happy because it was really, like you're saying, their decisions that came to life. And so this is what I'd like to do with this room. And then you draw it, we build it, and then that is what it is. It now is part of what their vision was, and now it's part of the house. And it becomes more than just an architect or a designer just designing something and the builder just coming in and building it. It was really what they wanted to see.
And that goes back to our design process. just recently, we sat down with a family, and we're working through the drawings that are in our CAD system and clicking it. What if we move this window over here? What if we change the height of the ceiling in this room? And just seeing it right away is just it's so helpful to vision that new space.
So if you're thinking about a multi-phase project or a single phase project, a new build, give us a ring, fill out the contact form. We'd be happy to help you.
Absolutely. Again, let's figure out how to get the project done. If you think that the project is too big, let's break it down into phases and we can help with that. But again, working to that ultimate goal of the overall master plan and making sure that it's the right project for you.
That's why design build is so important, because it is very flexible. It allows you to do all these things. You're not jumping back to the architect, the structural engineer as you're moving on to the different things. It's all under one roof. We're taking care of it from beginning to the end and in multi phases. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day.